Hey there, CS320 students. So in this recording, we're going to wrap up the tutorial on the service implementation for edit and delete. So remember, previously we implemented the add, talked about it. The delete requires that you provided an ID, and you should be able to delete that contact based on that ID. And then we should also be able to update our contact with an ID for its first name, last name, number, and address. Remember, you should not be able to edit the ID. And if you go to the tutorial that we've kind of been running, we made the ID as a private setter. So, if we go back to the school, a good way to make it so that the ID is not editable is it is a private setter and not a public setter. So let's come in here. Let's go ahead and talk about the edit and delete. And again, we can reference the project details announcement. So again, the delete method, we're going to create it as void. We're going to take an ID as a parameter. The ID method is going to be void and accepts a parameter of its particular type. Also, this has been added. We shouldn't be able to pass in a null parameter, right? So if we sent in a null parameter to our service layer, chances are pretty good something is going to throw a null pointer. So we should handle that with an illegal argument exception. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So let's go to our project that we have, and let's go to the test code. And so previously we did add. So in delete, I'm just going to stub these out because I'm going to leave the implementation up to you. So we should have a test for deleting an element that already exists. So in our arrange, act, and assert, would need to add an element to the list, would then delete the element from, I should say service, not the list. So the arrange is we're going to add an element to the service, and so really it's going to be create an element and add to the service. We're then going to delete the element from the service, and so the assertion part is removed element is no longer present. So again, if I go back to my school service, we have a get right here, so we can get by ID, and if it's a null, then we know that it no longer exists in there. We should have a test for deleting an element that does not exist. And so here, you're going to ensure that the element is not present to start. That would be your first arrange. And then the act would be to delete it, and then you would assert that it threw an exception. In terms of the edit, right, so the happy path is should test that we can edit an existing item for all of its non-ID fields. So we should create it, right? It's got to be added. So it has to be added to the service. We then edit the object, and in the assertions, so the act is adding it and then editing that object. And the assertion, you have to assert that the fields have been updated. And then we should test that a non-existing item throws the no such element exception. And that should apply here, right? So we should also throw that exception. And then we should also make sure that we test for null as well. So I'm going to leave the delete and edit options for their implementation to you. As always, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out.